Uh, One of the challenges that I experienced, and I suspect Candace experienced, pretty much every agent has experienced, is this idea of we don't know what winning each day looks like, right? We can do whatever we do throughout the day, and at the end of the day, it's like if we don't have a new piece of business under contract, we're like, wait, was this a productive day? Right? Did I give it my all? Was it successful? Right? And the only way to know that is to give yourself, like you just suggested, like a standard for the day, right? The standard for my real estate organization for the day is that I speak to a certain number of people, and I add a certain number of people to my database, and I spend X number of minutes learning about the business. And if that happens, I've had a great day, right? And we know statistically that if that happens, those standards are met every single day that you're at work, you will make money and you will help lots of families. You just have to be patient and have the faith that it's going to happen after a certain amount of time, right? But if you ask every realtor that you would deem to be successful, they've gone through that process. Make sense?
And I think, yeah, and I think there's a limbo zone where if you don't keep swimming, you'll sink. And that limbo zone can be really, really, it can be really tough. But taking the steps each day, and we're going to talk about how to stay motivated today, but taking those steps each day and staying motivated, eventually your head's going to break water and you're going to be like, oh, I can see everything around me now. But right now it's just like you're swimming underwater and you can't see very far in any direction. And that's just a period of time, a short period of time. If you keep taking the strokes, keep doing the actions, you'll get there.
That's right. And it's also helpful because it helps you be at peace when you're working, because you know exactly what to focus on and you're just there to get it done. And also, more importantly, helps you be in the right mindset when you're not working, because I can't tell you how many times we were or I was not working physically, but my brain was still working, and it was obvious to my wife and my kids that I wasn't present, right? And the reason why is because I didn't know whether I had worked, right? I was unclear on what working looked like and what my standards were. The second I figured that out, when I was working, I was all in working. And when I was all out, I was all out, right? And that right there was like the moment. I mean, that was probably the most pivotal transition point in my career, was when I knew when I could focus and when I could let it go. Make sense? All right, Candace is going to be the instructor today and give you her perspective on motivation and big whys. And I'm grateful for you guys to be here today and hear all about it. So Candace, take it over.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad you're here today. I think I wanted to talk about this, especially now, is because this, as wonderful as the holidays can be, they sometimes derail our momentum. And it can be really hard to get back in the swing of things. And in order to get back in the swing of the things, we have to find that motivation again. And I think it starts, there's some people who say you don't need a big why. And then there are people who say you do need a big why. Well, I think it's important to have a why. And so I wanted to talk about what that is. And it's not a wish, it's not a goal. Your big why is something that affects you physically. So there's an exercise that you can do, and it's very simple, and it's just writing down something that you want. I mean, I don't know if anybody ever experienced this, but when I was 16, I wanted a car in the worst way. It was like all I thought about, because it meant freedom, right? It meant, oh, I don't have to wait for my mom to drive me someplace. I don't have to, have her drop me off a block in front of the school, so I won't have to be embarrassed. I'm the young one, and I can't drive. I wanted that car. I mean, it was all I thought about. And the deal is that I had to earn it. I wasn't going to be given it. I had to earn it. So I found everything I could do. I mean, I would do anything. I would do yard work. I would do house cleaning. I would do dishes. I would do laundry. Anything I could think of. I got a job at a steakhouse as a host. Oh my goodness. For like, I don't know, 20 cents an hour. Anything I could do to get that car, that was what I wanted, and it was physical for me. So that's where our why can be really, really important. And if you ever had an experience like that, I'd love for you to go back and re-experience what that felt like. And then what it felt like when you attained that goal. When you got, for me, it was when I got my car. It was a blue Mustang hatch by myself. It was my life. So has anybody in here ever had an experience like that with something they wanted so badly? Maybe it was a bike or just going to college. I don't know, whatever it was. Has anybody had that besides me?
I did, Candace. I wanted a car really bad in high school. And my dad told me I had to run track and I hated it. I lost every race on purpose just to get my car, and I never invited him to a track meet. But I did get a car. I guess he just wanted me to try other things outside of band. But yeah, I hated it, but I did it and I got my car.
Yeah, and it felt great, didn't it? That sense of accomplishment was amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll do just about anything when we're really tied to a why, and that's why I think it's important. So I think it's a really dry exercise to go, well, what's your big why? It's something we have to find inside of ourselves, and it's not always the first thing that comes to mind. So for instance, one of my big whys is that I watched my mom work 3 jobs. I've watched my Aunt Patty work 2 jobs. I've always had 1 or 2 jobs. My family has a tremendous work ethic, but no one has ever broken that ceiling to complete financial independence, meaning that you don't work for your money works for you. So my big why is that I want to be the person who breaks through to that. And I want to be able to set that path for my family. It took me a long time to get there. And when we were on the MREA 24 topics, Bill Kennedy was talking about how his big why was first, well, I want stuff for my family. But it started to get real specific when he realized they were on vacation, and he realized, I want to create experiences for my family so that we have memories and we do things together. And that became really, really important for him. So what I challenge everybody to do, or not challenge, but what I encourage everybody to do, is to write down what comes to your mind. What do you want? And then ask yourself, why do I want that? And write down, why do I want that? And keep going until you come to something where you start to feel a tug in your gut or your heart. You start to get kind of sweaty and uncomfortable because it seems unrealistic. But when you start getting that physical reaction to what it is, you're getting to your why. Does that make sense to everybody? You can nod if you're on camera.
Yes.
Thank you. And is that something that I could ask everybody to do, and that you would actually take 10 minutes to do for yourselves?
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay, all right. Thank you. I know it's early. Okay.
One thing I would add to that, can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
It should like literally make your like goosebumps appear, right? Like when Candace says that she wants to be the one to create financial freedom and independence from for those in her family, and they essentially serve as a role model. I'm putting some words in your mouth, but serve as a role model to others that it could be done, these kind of things. Like I have like a physical reaction to that, right? That makes me like my arms twitch a little bit. Like that makes me say to myself, wait, am I pouring into her as much as I can or should so that that can happen for her? If she counts on me to be a peer partner, right? And I'm not obviously taking like really any credit, but like I'm in her world. That's part of my duty as her peer, as her partner, right? So your people need to know why you're putting yourself through these stressful situations, right? We've got people that big whys are about, what do you call it? IVF for their families, and helping, kids go to college, which has never happened in their family before. Like these kind of like, it should literally make you almost cry every time you think about it.
I was reading about Lori Ballens, who's Keller Williams' agent, who is on the internet a lot. She tests marketing ideas and things, and she was talking about her why, and she said basically, she got into business, she did well, so then she hired her brother, and she said that's when her why started to evolve, because she realized that now her brother's family is part of her big why, because she knows that she has to keep going so that he can keep going, because that family is so important to her. And she wants to have a family compound where everybody has their own place, so that all the siblings can sit on in rocking chairs on the front porch and tell stories of their childhood, and the kids will be around listening. She's got this whole visual thing going on of what that looks like. And then she wants a Christmas house in the mountains. And so, for her, it's all family related. For some people, it's, for a lot of people, it's family related, but for some people, it's like that car was a thing that meant freedom to me. And that could be what yours is. So there's no judging around your why. It's a personal thing, but it's important to get to that physical reaction to it. And that's why I think if you can come in and take the vision board workshop this Friday, I think sometimes having images can be more powerful than words. If I write down my goal and see my goal says, I want to create financial independence, but then I see what that financial independence looks like, because I see photos of my family, and I see vacations, I see photos of vacations that I want to take them on. That's a little bit more of a reaction that it's more of a reaction that I have to that. So I encourage you to take that vision board, or at least do a vision board if you haven't done one.
Yeah, I would be willing to guarantee that Lori Ballin has a picture of a rocking chair somewhere in her her workspace.
Gotcha, for sure.
For sure. Right.
So we're going to talk about, does anybody have any questions about that or comments about that before we keep going? Sleepy bunch this morning. Okay, Bill, you look like you want to say something.
I was trying to decide if I wanted to encourage everyone to turn on their video now, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about some ways that we can stay motivated. One of those, of course, is if you can get to that emotional thing that drives you every single day. But until you can get to that, what can you do? Well, one of the things that happens to real estate agents is we tend to, we see the promise of something and then we wait. And so we're very reactive. But if we can be proactive instead of reactive, then we take charge, and it's much more motivating. So for instance, if you say, I've got that one client and they're supposed to buy, and you wait, and and then they don't buy, well, it's very discouraging. But if you're proactive and you're doing exactly like what Bill was talking about with your daily standards, maybe it's calling 5 people, let's say not calling 5 people, but talking to 5 people. Maybe it's talking to 20 people. But when you have set those standards for your business and you're proactive and you talk to those people, you will have business. But more importantly than that is that you're actually being proactive and taking charge of your day instead of sitting back and waiting, which can make you absolutely crazy and depressed, I promise. So a reactive mindset means you're constantly being blown around. And that's also what I see with new agents. It's like, oh, so-and-so is having success because they did a mailer that talked about how to make Christmas bar. And now they have 15 deals out of it. Why am I going to do that? And then over here, oh, there's somebody that climbed a wall and publicized it on YouTube. Well, I'm going to do that. And then over here, there's somebody that did another lead generating activity, and that worked for them. So I'm going to do that. And we tend to flip from thing to thing to thing and be blown around without being decisive. And that's why the GPS is such an important tool, because it actually gives you a blueprint for getting from, and keeps you on track for getting from where you are now to the goal that you set for yourself. For either, as I say, if the whole year is too overwhelming for you, just do the first quarter. Just set your goal for the first quarter and talk about the activities you're doing around that. So anyway, so that's number one, is be proactive instead of reactive. Give yourself daily, weekly, monthly, and even annual tasks so you can stay on track and measure your progress. And I promise you, when you're reporting your numbers and once this clicks for you, it's going to be amazing. I know some of you are fighting it and fighting it. Like, oh, I got to make those calls. I got to make those calls. And then you try and make those calls. And some days you let the little rocks and the little pebbles get in the way of the big rocks and you don't make the calls. And then you're like, oh God, I feel so bad. Once it clicks for you, how good it feels and how easy it is to do those number of calls that you set or to do whatever your lead generation activity is, and you do it consistently and you're proactive about it, it changes your world. It changes you from feeling like overwhelmed to, I'm a business person, I've got this. And I'm just learning new things as I go. Bill, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, you and I we're right on sync today. I think it starts with mindset, right? I think I said something the other day around, like, let's say you're dual career. Just start telling yourself you're a realtor with a busy schedule or something, right? You're a realtor, but you got lots of stuff that you got to take care of outside of real estate, right? Because otherwise you're treating real estate as a hobby at best. And therefore you're just not putting in the work. And look, I'm perfectly clear, and Candace is perfectly clear. If you're off track, you don't want to put in your numbers. I totally get that. Okay. But I want you to think back to what you wanted out of a real estate career when you decided to shell out $400 to be a realtor. And you must have thought, I'm assuming you must have thought that it was going to be, or it had the potential to be different than all of the other employment opportunities you've had in the past, right? If I'm a successful realtor, then I can have more freedom with my schedule. I can have control over my income. I can go to get my nails done in the middle of the day without having to take a sick day, right? I have more control. I have more freedom. Control and freedom and flexibility and all that is earned, right? It's earned by growing a bunch of relationships. I know you guys have said this is nuts before, but like literally, if you can remember all the details about all of your prospects, you don't have enough prospects. Like if you're still hanging on to that mediocre lead that's going to buy in September, maybe, you don't have enough prospects. You've got to have a daily standard of getting out there and communicating with people. That's the only way you're going to get what this business can achieve for you. Does that make sense?
And I agree, that's a mindset thing, and that's another switch that can be flipped. And once you flip that switch to, I don't know how to talk to anybody, I don't know where to find people, to people are everywhere. All you have to do is just get out of your house, right? Or pick up the phone. I mean, there's so many ways to meet people. And once that switch flips for you, it's like, oh my gosh, it's kind of like I've forgotten what that's called, Bill, where when you see a red Audi A5 and you think that's what you want to buy, then all of a sudden all you see are red Audi A5s. What's that called?
It's called the RAS, the reticular activating system.
Thank you.
So it's basically a brain concept where when you have, it's the idea of what you focus on expands.
Yep.
Right? So like when I decided, for example, I'll give you a quick example. When I decided to get purposeful about profit share, I was obsessed with it. Obsessed. I would wake up in the middle of the night and write down ideas. I was thinking about it all the time. Like there are probably people that are like, that guy needs to go see somebody about this problem. This is a problem, right? But you know what? I was so committed that you have no idea. And as a result, I've been able to impact a lot of people and be financially rewarded for it, right? So that's, I'm in the middle of listening to High Performance Habits, which by the way is probably the best book out there. The best, I mean, it's so good. High Performance Habits. You really have to have a healthy obsession with getting out there and helping people, right? And when you have that, you're going to do what it takes to win.
Yep. And so exactly. Okay, that's on that. So that one is be proactive, right? Number one is be proactive. Every day, if you could say one thing to yourself to get your day started, say, I'm going to be proactive today. Okay, two is develop multiple income streams. So if all your eggs are in one basket, you've got that one client who says they're going to buy and they're just dragging their feet. Well, and then they decide, oh, no, we're not going to buy for another year, we're going to rent. Well, that can have a major impact if that's your only source of income. So have multiple streams of income. I've been encouraging people, different people, because of depending on what we're talking about too, on their GPS. It doesn't have to be all lead gen. Some of it could be like, we have one person who's had a couple of successes with referrals to other agents in different markets. So part of his GPS is to develop a referral stream, a steady referral stream, and he's developing strategies around that. So that can be a second source of income for him, and that's passive income. Profit share is another source of income that could be on your GPS, for instance, as well as things like open houses or cold calling or interviews. So there's all different ways, but it's just important that you don't put all your eggs in one basket, because if that basket goes away, then it can be pretty devastating. You can develop referral partners, connect with developers, investors. You can earn a new certification. Aubrey gave us a big hint back when he was team leader about what might be happening in the market and how it might be important to get an REO certification. We don't know what's going to happen, but he certainly has had vision before. So that's something that you could think about. So being proactive, making sure you have multiple ways to earn. And then this is a really important one, emphasize self-care. We don't talk about this one a lot, but this is about how we take care of our bodies, right? So you can't be at your best if you're not giving your body what it needs. If you don't get enough sleep, if you don't eat with some nutrition in mind, if you don't exercise or do what you need to do. It's interesting because on Dual Career the other night, we did a time management exercise, and one of it was discovering your circadian rhythms, or what energizes you. And what we found was there was that one agent on there who exercises in the morning when he gets up. And then when he first gets up, he gets up at like 4, and we assigned words to each hour of the day. And the word that he assigned to that was sluggish. And then he works out. And after that hour, he felt energized, right? And then he goes throughout his day, he's Dual Career, and he goes throughout his day. And then when he gets back at his house at 5 o'clock, he goes for a run, 3 or 5 miles. And again, he feels energized. So what we discovered is that physicality really affects him. So because he has to make his calls that he's making for lead gen in between his work during the day. So what we discovered is that if he could get up and do like 10 jumping jacks or do some priming, if you watch Tony Robbins priming, it's a way to get a lot of oxygen into your body really fast, then he can have that same energy going into those calls that he's making. So that's a great exercise, by the way. If anybody wants to rewatch that Dual Career, it was from Monday night. And it's an exercise that you can do for yourself to discover what has happened that causes you to be energized, or is it a certain time of day? But you can take control of that and start to direct that a little bit. But so for instance, I know that when you're struggling professionally, oh my goodness, French fries just seem like the answer to all the world's problems, right? Or whatever it is, a cookie, whatever it is that is calling your name right then. But that sometimes is not the best answer. Sometimes swapping that out for a tangerine is the better answer, because the next day I experienced this after Thanksgiving. I remember talking to Sophie, feeling kind of sluggish and not feeling that great. And we traced it back to Thanksgiving and holiday eating. So this is when I used to teach jazzercise. I used to say, treat yourself like you would your best friend. You would never give your best friend a whole bag of Fritos and say, eat this in one sitting, talking about the big bag. And so just treat yourself like your best friend. Practice positive self-talk. I know I heard you say this morning you were hard on yourself, Taria, and there's no benefit in being hard on ourselves. We can correct our course when we know we're a little off track, but that's all it is being a little off track. And so it's important that we give ourselves grace. As my sister says, guess what? We get to be human our whole lives. What that means is that we're never going to have a perfect day. We can have day when we say we're going to do something and we do it, and we can have a string of those days in a row, which is how we're going to stay in business and see great success. But if we beat ourselves up, that's a whole lot of energy wasted that could be used for something. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the nod, Melissa. Um, so yeah, and I think self-talk can also, so this is what I know. Your subconscious listens to everything you say. So if you say, I can't, I won't, I'm horrible, I didn't do what I said, oh my gosh, I'm just, just worthless. Whatever you say to yourself, your subconscious hears that, and it's going to manifest that out for you. So you might not see a shift at first, but if you start to, and I'll tell you a story of a friend of mine that she was suffering from agoraphobia. I think that's what it is when you can't go out of your house. She had such anxiety that she couldn't even go out of her house, and she had feelings of worthlessness, depression. And she started doing these affirmations, and every morning she would look in the mirror and she would go, I am a strong, capable, wonderful, intelligent woman. And she would just say that every morning to herself. And she's now pretty much an influencer. She has such a huge following of people. She leads the Daniel fast every year in January. She's written books. I mean, and she got herself out of that. And your subconscious might not shift day one, day two, but your subconscious is listening. And after a while, it's going to believe what you tell it. So if you get in the mirror every day and say, I am a fantastic agent, I am on top of the world, I have a big business, I know what the heck I'm doing, it happens. So practice positive self-talk. It's free, it's cheap, it's easy. If you don't know what to say, call me. One of the exercises I think that's fun that I actually created is take your first name and make it an acronym. So for instance, Candace the C could stand for creative, the A could stand for action oriented, the N could stand for nice, the D could stand for discriminating, the A could stand for awesome, the C could stand for communicative, and the E could stand for extraordinary. So take your first name and make it an acronym and write that down so you look at it every day, because then you tie those words with your name, and that's helpful too, I think. Okay, and then control the influences around you. This one is, so when you're a new agent and you hang around with other new agents and it's, oh, nothing is working, oh gosh, I've tried this and I tried that, well, I'm just not, I don't think what they say is right. And I don't know, when you're around people that are negative like that, it influences you. So you can share your worries and concerns, but there's a rule around that I've developed, and that's, you can stay for about 5 minutes in that space, and then you got to shift into a positive space. However you do that, whether it's watching a video on motivation, or whether it's watching bloopers that make you laugh, or funniest home videos, there's a law of nature that says for an action in motion will tend to stay in the same direction at the same speed unless acted upon by an outside force. So sometimes we have to be the ones who bring that outside force. And if you're feeling really negative, instead of spiraling down into that or calling somebody else who'll commiserate with you, get around somebody who's positive and let them bring you up a little bit. And then do that for other people when you see other people that are negative, when you can be positive. So that's what I have for you for today. Any comments or questions on anything that we've talked about?
I would like to add something to that, Candace.
Yes, please.
Just especially with dual career agents, it can be kind of like discouraging seeing other people's success further than yours. But then you also have to just think about, you don't know the struggles that person went through to get where they are, and just to stop comparing yourself to other people, especially like on the call doing success stories and everything, and rather than maybe call them and see what steps they took to get there, because it just don't start off as everybody getting transactions from the first year, second year. Like, I'm going into my third year of real estate, well, fourth year of real estate, and I mean, it hasn't always been easy. I had to learn how to I guess figure out my schedule and figure out what works for me versus kind of what works for everybody else, to be where I am right now.
Thank you for bringing that up. That should be number 6, right? Don't compare your internal to someone else's external. And I can tell you that it's just like Facebook. There are a lot of, for instance, I know this for a fact, not in our office, but there are a lot of mega teams out there who look like they are just incredibly wealthy, and they are not making a dime because they're expense heavy. So everything is not always as it appears. So when you look at that person who's doing so great in their office, you don't know what else they're dealing with. So just, or what, like Markia said, what they had to do to get where they are, but just don't compare yourself. When I was in art school, one of my favorite professors said to me, because I was very judgmental about everything I drew, it didn't look like, it wasn't as good as that person, or it didn't come out the way it was in my head, or whatever it was, and I was having such a bad time with my inner judge that I was paralyzing, and that was that negative self-talk. And he said, listen to me. He said, your job as an artist is to make a mark on the paper and take it on a journey and see where it goes. Whatever is inside of you is going to make it be right. And I'd say the same thing in life. Whatever made you decide to be a realtor was that first mark on the paper, and it's your job to take it on a journey and see where it goes. And you can have an outcome in mind for it. Like, I'd know kind of, I'm going to paint a horse, but I wouldn't know exactly how I was going to get to, and what that end result was exactly going to look like. So, but my job was to keep going until it started to form into the shape of a horse. And that's the same thing I say with everybody. Trust your guts, trust your instincts. Unless they're telling you negative things, and then just say stop. And if you need a boost, I promise you can call me anytime, because I think all of you are awesome. And I know the struggles of being dual career. And I also understand the struggles of being a new agent. And I also understand that we all have different personalities. So if you ever need a boost, or you need somebody to go, tell me I'm awesome, you call me and I'll tell you you're awesome, and I'll mean it. Okay, anybody else? Markia, thank you for bringing that up. All right, well, we're going to one things. All right, Taria, you're first on my screen. What's your one thing for today? I hope I hear somebody say, I'm going to talk nicely to myself.
That's very, very interesting, because that's what I was going to say. Like, I just want to change my mindset from, if I don't do it, I fail, to it's okay, I made a step towards it. So
Baby steps.
yeah, eat a pizza bite by bite. So
Good, I love it. Okay, Tracy. I think you're frozen. Markia.
Legion.
Oh,
and
Legion.
and find someone to help me with this open house on Saturday.
Okay, reach out to Drew Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Markia.
I want to, I guess, find a way to make it to the vision board party on Friday. So I need to adjust my schedule to make it.
Okay, good. Caroline.
Lead gen, making 20 contacts today.
Good one. Heather. Are you there, Heather? Hi.
Hi. Can you hear me?
A little bit.
Okay, here. Can you hear me now?
Pretty soft.
Oh, here, just a sec. Sorry, it's going through my speaker for some reason.
There you go. Now we can hear you.
My one thing for today is to review the questions and everything that I need to ask for the buyer consultation tomorrow.
Excellent. Excellent. Remember, you can take that sheet with you. You don't have to memorize them.
Yeah, but reviewing it and doing that is what I need to do.
Yeah, make sure you can ask the questions, and make sure you can ask the questions. Practice. If they say, I want a backyard, then you say, well, what's important to you about that backyard? Go a little deeper.
Yep.
Okay. And Loretta.
Lead generation for today.
Love, love, love it. And Jay Duncan, I haven't met, have I? What's your one thing?
No, I don't think we've met, Candace. My one thing for today is working on the Keller's offer page from that Zoom last night, so I can incorporate that into my seller legion and trying to get more sellers.
Very nice to meet you, and I love your one thing. What's your first name?
Jonathan, John.
Jonathan. Okay, nice to meet you, Jonathan. Well, my one thing today
Nice to
is
meet you.
my one thing today is to gosh, and I usually have it firmed up, but my one thing today is going to be I'm reaching out to get my REO certification because that's on my GPS. And that's it for today.
Candace, can you explain what that means for a second?
So REOs are bank-owned properties. I don't think there will be quite as many as they think because when people that couldn't pay their mortgages had an opportunity to go into forbearance, meaning that their payments were frozen for a period of months, and then it's added on if they're not able to come out of forbearance and pay that back. There are loan modifications where they can add that amount onto the end of their loan, and it has to be paid when they close, if they sold their home. But other than that, they're just paying, instead of 30 years, they might be paying 31 years, right? To pay off that extra money that they didn't pay because they weren't able to pay their mortgage because of COVID. So, but there are going to be some homes that go into foreclosure. And a lot of times banks have those as assets because if there's been a mortgage on it, the first mortgage after taxes is the lien holder, the first lien holder. So banks need help selling those properties. And typically what happens is that you'll have to do a broker price opinion, which is an in-depth CMA, but you have to also learn how to, it's competitive. You have to learn how to court the asset managers because they're the ones who communicate with agents and say, we've got these homes to sell. It's a niche, let's put it that way. It's a niche, but having that REO certification can help you with credibility. And it just helps you understand how to work with banks because unlike working with regular buyers, working with banks they don't necessarily have lines. They might not get back to you for 3 months once you've submitted an offer because they've got a stack of things. They've got a stack of things, other offers for other properties on their desk, and it's just a matter of them getting to it. It's all numbers for them. So it's understanding how to work with banks, how to provide value. Say what?
What's the abbreviation for, you said REO?
Real estate owned.
Oh,
real estate owned. So anyway, okay, if anybody has any questions about that, Aubrey did a big deal on it with resources in one of the team meetings. You can access that by going to KW Roswell Training and looking down through the team meetings, and you'll see some of the topics and you can rewatch that. And that'll give you some information about that if you're interested in that niche. I hope everybody has an amazing day. We'll see you tomorrow morning for some role play, and call me if you have any questions, okay?
thank you.
Bye, quiet people.
Bye.